Captain Zethkar had been flying through space for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this before. The quantum readings on his ship's display screen were jumping around like crazy. His vessel Silent Dawn was a research ship built by the Vellani Empire to study strange things in space. Today, those strange things were about to kill him and his crew. "Captain, the energy levels are getting too high," shouted Engineer Yathara from her station. Her blue skin was turning pale, with fear. "The quantum field is pulling us in." Zethkar gripped his captain's chair as the ship shook violently. Through the main window, he could see space itself bending and twisting in ways that hurt his eyes to look at. His 3 crew members were all working hard at their stations, but nothing they did seemed to help. "Try to reverse the engines," Zethkar ordered. His voice stayed calm even though his heart was beating fast. Good captains never showed fear to their crew. Pilot Canthor pressed buttons quickly with his 4-fingered hands. "The engines are not responding, Captain. Something is blocking our power systems." The ship lurched forward suddenly. Everyone on the bridge was thrown against their seats. Red warning lights started flashing everywhere. The computer voice began, speaking in the Vellani language, warning them about system failures. "We are being pulled toward that planet," said Navigator Vexini, pointing at the view screen. A brown and green world was getting bigger and bigger in front of them. "I cannot change our course." Zethkar looked at the planet rushing toward them. It was not on any star charts he knew. The Kepler 442 system was supposed to be empty except for gas giants. This rocky world should not exist here at all. "Everyone get to the crash pods," he commanded. But when Yathara tried to open the pod bay doors, nothing happened. The doors were sealed shut by the same force that had trapped their engines. "The quantum field is interfering with everything," Yathara said. Her voice was shaking now. "We cannot escape, Captain." The ship was falling faster now. The planet's atmosphere began to glow around them as they entered it. The hull started to get very hot. Zethkar could smell the metal burning. "Hold on to something," he yelled. "We are going to crash." The Silent Dawn hit the planet's surface hard. Zethkar felt his body slam against the wall. Everything went black. When he woke up, the ship was quiet. Too quiet. Emergency lights were flashing red, but there was no sound from the engines or computers. Zethkar touched his head and felt wet blood. His right arm hurt badly, but it was not broken. He stood up slowly and looked around the bridge. Pilot Canthor was not moving. His neck was bent in a wrong way. Navigator Vexina was also dead. Blood covered her station. "Yathara," Zethkar called out. He heard a weak sound from the engineering section. He found her trapped under a heavy metal beam. Her legs were crushed, and more blood was coming from her mouth. Zethkar tried to lift the beam, but it was too heavy and his injured arm would not work right. "Captain," she whispered, "I am dying." "No, you are not," he said, but he knew she was right. In their species, when blood came from the mouth like that, it meant internal organs were damaged too badly to fix. "Listen to me," she said, grabbing his hand with her good arm. "Before we crashed, I detected something strange. There was a signal coming from this planet. It was artificial, but not from any species we know." "What kind of signal?" he asked. "Radio waves and patterns, like a language, but not Vellani or any other race in our database." "The signal was strong, Captain. Whatever made it is still here on this planet." Yathara coughed and more blood came out. "Be careful, Captain. We do not know if they are friendly." Those were her last words. Zethara died holding his hand. Zethkar sat alone in the broken ship for a long time. 3 of his crew were dead. He was injured and stranded on an unknown planet with no way to call for help. The nearest Vellani base was 6 months away by ship. Even if they noticed Silent Dawn was missing, it would take them months to find this place. He walked through the ship, checking what was left. Most of the important systems were broken. The long-range communicator was completely destroyed. The food storage area was damaged and only had enough supplies for maybe 3 weeks. The air recycling system was working but making strange noises. Outside, the ship Zethkar could see an alien landscape. The sky was a strange blue color instead of the purple he was used to. 2 small suns hung in the sky, giving everything a bright yellow light. In the distance he could see mountains and what looked like forests. The air outside would probably kill him. His species needed different gases to breathe than most worlds provided. The portable life support unit on his belt would only work for a few hours outside the ship. As night fell on the alien world, Zethkar made a shelter in the least damaged part of the ship. He sealed off the broken sections and activated what emergency power was left. The heaters would keep him warm for now, but the power cells would not last long. He tried not to think about Ythara's last words about the artificial signal. If there were other beings on this planet, they might be hostile. His people had met many alien races during their expansion across the galaxy. Most first meetings did not go well for the weaker species, but as he sat in the dark listening to strange animal sounds outside, he began to hope that maybe these unknown aliens might help him. It was a small hope, but it was all he had left. Zethkar did not know that high above his crashed ship satellites were already tracking his location. He did not know that beings called humans had detected his ship's fall from space, and he could not imagine that these humans were already preparing to travel across dangerous terrain to reach him. The captain of the Silent Dawn fell asleep that first night believing he would die alone on this strange world. He was wrong about being alone, but right about one thing. His life was about to change in ways he never expected. Zethkar woke up on his third day to the sound of metal scraping against metal. Something was moving outside his broken ship. He grabbed the only weapon he had left, which was a small energy pistol with half charge remaining. The sounds were not like the wild animals he had heard before. These were different, more careful, more intelligent. He remembered what Ythara had said about artificial signals and felt his hearts beating faster. Villani had two hearts and both of them were pounding now. Through a crack in the hull he could see shapes moving around the crash site. They were walking on two legs like his people, but they looked completely different. These beings were shorter and had strange coverings on their bodies that were not natural skin. They had no visible claws or fangs or other weapons that most intelligent species possessed. One of them was pointing some kind of device at his ship. Another was holding what looked like a communication device. They were talking to each other, in sounds that seemed like language but unlike anything in the galactic databases he knew. Zethkar decided he had two choices. He could hide in the ship until they went away or until he died from lack of supplies. Or he could go outside and face whatever these aliens wanted to do to him. Since hiding would only delay his death, he chose to meet them. He put his weapon in its holster but kept his hand near it. Then he opened the emergency airlock and stepped outside wearing his portable life support unit. The aliens immediately stopped what they were doing and looked at him. Zethkar was surprised that they did not point weapons at him or make threatening gestures. Instead, the one who seemed to be their leader held up both hands with palms facing outward. The leader was shorter than Zethkar, but had broad shoulders and moved with confidence. His skin was darker than the others, and he had short black hair on his head. His eyes were brown and looked directly at Zethkar without showing fear. "Hello," the leader said, pointing to himself. "Jake Morrison." He pointed to Zethkar and made a questioning sound. Zethkar understood that this being was trying to communicate his name. He pointed to himself and said, "Zethkar," in his own language. Jake Morrison repeated the name slowly. "Zethkar." Then, he pointed to the other aliens with him. Lisa Chen, Pete Rodriguez, Amy Parker, Sam Torres, Ben Clark. Each alien stepped forward slightly when their name was said. Zethkar noticed they all looked different from each other. Some had lighter skin, some darker. Some had yellow hair, others brown or black. This was unusual since most species he knew looked very similar to each other. Jake Morrison pulled out a small device and began pressing buttons on it. The device made sounds and then spoke in Zethkar's language. "Universal Translator," the device said in Villani words. "Can you understand this?" Zethkar was amazed. "Yes, I can understand you. How do you have translation technology?" "We trade with many species," Jake Morrison said through the device. "We detected your ship falling from space. We came to help you." "Help me," Zethkar repeated. This was not what he expected. "What do you want in return?" The humans looked at each other confused. One of them, who had been introduced as Lisa Chen, stepped forward. She was smaller than the others with straight black hair and gentle eyes. She was carrying what looked like medical supplies. "We want nothing," she said through the translator. "You are hurt and alone. We help, because that is what humans do." Zethkar did not understand. In his experience, alien species only helped others when they could gain something valuable in return. Technology or territory or resources or information. Free help did not exist in the galaxy he knew. "I have nothing to trade," he said carefully. "My ship is destroyed. My crew is dead. I have no valuable items." "We know," Jake Morrison said. "We still want to help you." Lisa Chen approached him slowly like she was trying not to frighten him. She pointed to the blood on his head and the way he was holding his injured arm. She opened her medical kit and showed him bandages and healing. "Supplies. May I treat your wounds?" she asked. Zethkar hesitated. Letting an alien touch him could be dangerous, but his injuries were getting worse and he was already dying slowly anyway. He nodded. Lisa Chen worked on his wounds with gentle, careful movements. Her hands were steady, and she clearly knew what she was doing. The bandages she used had some kind of medicine that made the pain go away quickly. While Lisa Chen worked on him, the other humans began examining his ship. Pete Rodriguez, the engineer, was looking at the damaged engines and taking notes. Amy Parker was scanning the area with different devices. Sam Torres was studying the crash pattern. "Your ship was pulled down by quantum interference," Pete Rodriguez said when he finished his examination. "The same thing happened to one of our probe ships last year." "You have experienced this before?" Zethkar asked. "Yes. This planet has strange quantum fields that can trap ships. We lost 2 unmanned probes before we learned how to avoid the effect." Jake Morrison sat down on a piece of metal near Zethkar. "We have a base camp about 50 kilometers north of here. We can take you there. Our medical facilities are better, and we have food that might work for your species." "Why would you do this?" Zethkar asked again. "What do humans gain from helping me?" Amy Parker, who had been quiet until now, sat down across from him. She had light-colored hair and blue eyes that reminded him of his own species, though the shape was different. "Where we come from," she said, "we have a saying, 'Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.' It means treat others the way you want to be treated. If we were the ones crashed and alone on your world," Jake Morrison added, "we would hope your people would help us, so we help you." Ben Clark, the youngest of the group, was working on something with the translator device. "I am trying to improve the translation program," he said, "so we can talk to you better." Sam Torres brought over a container of water. "This is safe for most species," she said. "Small sips first to test if your body can process it." Zethkar took a small drink. The water tasted strange but did not make him feel sick. He was very thirsty and the water helped. "Your ship's communication system is completely destroyed," Pete Rodriguez reported. "But I think we can build a new one using parts from your ship and some of our equipment." "You would help me contact my people?" Zethkar asked. "Of course," Jake Morrison said. "You need to get home." Lisa Chen finished treating his wounds and packed up her medical supplies. "You should not stay here," she said. "This area has dangerous animals at night. Come with us to our base." Zethkar looked around at these strange beings called humans. They had spent hours helping him without asking for anything. They offered him food, water, medical care, and even helped contacting his empire for rescue. None of this made sense according to everything he knew about how alien species behaved. But what choice did he have? He was injured and alone, with no hope of survival without their help. And despite his confusion about their motives, these humans seemed genuinely kind. "I will come with you," he said. Jake Morrison smiled, which Zethkar learned was a happy expression for humans. "Good. We leave in 1 hour." As the humans prepared their transport vehicles and gathered salvageable parts from his ship, Zethkar wondered what kind of beings these humans really were. In his 20 years of military service across the galaxy, he had never met anyone who helped strangers without wanting something in return. He was about to learn that humans were unlike any species the galaxy had ever seen. The human base was unlike anything Zethkar had expected. Instead of a military fortress or resource extraction facility, It looked more like a small, peaceful village. Simple buildings were scattered around a central area where humans worked together on various projects. Gardens grew food plants and children played games while adults watched them with gentle expressions. Jake Morrison led him to a medical building where Lisa Chen could treat his injuries properly. The medical equipment was different from Villani technology but seemed very advanced for such a young species. Lisa Chen scanned his body with devices that could see inside him without causing harm. "Your bone structure is fascinating," she said while studying the results. "Your species has redundant organ systems, which explains why you survived injuries that would kill a human." "How long have humans been traveling in space?" Zethkar asked. "About 200 years, Jake Morrison answered. "We are still new to meeting other species." 200 years was nothing compared to the thousands of years other galactic civilizations had been spacefaring, most species that young had barely left their home systems. Yet these humans had somehow established colonies and developed translation technology and medical knowledge about alien biology. Amy Parker entered the medical facility carrying data tablets and recording devices. "I hope you do not mind, but I would like to learn about your species," she said. "We have never met Villani before." "What would you like to know?" Zethkar asked. "Everything," Amy Parker said with excitement. "Your culture, your technology, your history. Are there many species in your empire?" Zethkar spent the next few hours telling Amy Parker about the Villani Empire and the dozens of species they ruled over. He explained how stronger civilizations absorbed weaker ones and how territory was claimed through military conquest. Amy Parker looked troubled by some of his explanations. "Do you ever help species that are weaker than you without taking their territory?" "Why would we do that?" Zethkar asked, confused. "Because they might need help," she said simply. That evening, the humans invited Zethkar to share a meal with them. They had prepared food that their computers indicated would be safe for his biology. The taste was strange, but not unpleasant, and it provided the nutrients his body needed. During the meal, Ben Clark asked him about Villani language and culture. Sam Torres wanted to know about spaceship design. Pete Rodriguez discussed engineering techniques. Everyone seemed genuinely interested in learning about his people, not for military intelligence, but simply out of curiosity. "In our travels," Jake Morrison said, "we have met 17 different alien species. Most of them were suspicious of us at first. Some tried to attack us or steal our technology, but we always try to make friends if possible." "What do you do when they attack you?" Zethkar asked. "We defend ourselves," Lisa Chen said, "but we also try to understand why they attacked. Usually it is because they are afraid or because they have had bad experiences with other aliens." Amy Parker showed him recordings from previous human encounters with alien species. In every case, the humans had tried to communicate peacefully first. Even when attacked, they used only enough force to protect themselves and then tried to resume peaceful contact afterward. "There was one species called the Corvani," Sam Torres explained. "They attacked our ships because they thought we were going to steal their water resources. After we convinced them we only wanted to trade, they became good friends." "You trade water?" Zethkar asked. "We trade many things," Jake Morrison said. "Food, technology, knowledge, art, entertainment. Humans like to share what we have with others." Over the following days, Zethkar watched how the humans lived and worked together. Parents took care of all children, not just their own. People shared food and tools freely. When someone was sick or injured, everyone helped take care of them. Pete Rodriguez worked day and night to repair communication equipment using parts from Zethkar's ship. He refused any payment and seemed happy just to help solve an interesting technical problem. Lisa Chen checked on Zethkar's healing progress every day and taught her medical team about Villani biology, in case they met others of his species later. She said the knowledge might help save lives someday. Amy Parker spent hours talking with Zethkar about galactic politics and culture. She was particularly interested in species that had been conquered by larger empires. "Do you think those conquered species are happy?" she asked one day. "Happy," Zethkar repeated. "They are safe and fed and given work to do. What more do they need?" "Freedom," Amy Parker said. the right to choose their own leaders and make their own decisions. Freedom is dangerous, Zethkar said. Weak species make bad decisions that get them killed. Strong species protect them by making decisions for them. Amy Parker looked sad. We believe all beings have the right to be free even if they make mistakes. Making your own choices is what makes life worth living. These conversations troubled Zethkar. The humans spoke about ideas that went against everything he had been taught about how civilization should work. Yet he could see that their way of life produced happy, peaceful people who genuinely cared about each other. One evening, Jake Morrison found Zethkar sitting alone outside the medical building looking up at the stars. "Are you thinking about your home?" Jake Morrison asked. "I am thinking about everything," Zethkar replied. "Your people are very strange." Jake Morrison laughed. "We probably seem crazy to someone from a military empire." "Not crazy," Zethkar said carefully. "Just different. In my experience, strong species take what they want from weak species, but humans seem to give things to others without taking anything back." "We do get something back," Jake Morrison said. "When we help others, it makes us feel good. And maybe someday when we need help, those people will remember our kindness. But what if they do not help you when you need it? Then we still helped someone who needed help. That is good enough." Sam Torres joined them and reported that the communication repairs were almost finished. "Pete Rodriguez thinks he can have your long-range transmitter working within 2 days." Zethkar felt a strange mix of emotions. He was glad he would be able to contact his people for rescue, but he was also sad to think about leaving these remarkable humans. In just a few days, they had shown him a completely different way of thinking about life and relationships between species. "When you contact your empire," Jake Morrison asked, "will you tell them about us?" Zethkar hesitated. Standard protocol required him to report all contact with new species. The Villani military would want to know about human technology and territory. They would probably send ships to claim this sector of space. But as he looked at these peaceful people who had saved his life and asked for nothing in return, he realized he did not want to be responsible for their conquest or destruction. "I will tell them what I must," he said finally. Amy Parker seemed to understand his conflict. "We know the galaxy can be dangerous for species like us, but we hope that maybe we can prove that peaceful cooperation is better than conquest." That night, Zethkar lay awake thinking about everything he had learned. These humans had challenged every assumption he held about how intelligent species behaved. They were weak by galactic standards, but they had something more powerful than weapons or advanced technology. They had compassion, and Zethkar was beginning to understand that compassion might be the strongest force in the universe. Pete Rodriguez called out excitedly from his workshop early in the morning. "The communicator is working," he announced to everyone in the base. "Captain Zethkar can now contact his people." Zethkar felt his stomach twist into knots as he walked toward the communication building. For weeks he had wanted nothing more than to reach his empire and arrange for rescue. Now that the moment had arrived, he was filled with dread instead of relief. The long-range transmitter that Pete Rodriguez had built was a combination of Villani and human technology. It was actually more powerful than his original ship equipment had been. The humans had improved his design without even realizing it. "The signal will reach Villani space in about 6 hours," Pete Rodriguez explained. "Then it depends on how long it takes them to respond." Jake Morrison stood beside the communication console. "Is there anything special we should know about first contact with your empire?" Zethkar looked around at the humans who had gathered to watch this historic moment. These people had no idea what they were asking. First contact with the Villani Empire usually meant the end of independence for smaller species. "My people are very different from humans," he said carefully. "They do not think the same way about helping others." Lisa Chen stepped forward. "Will they want to meet us?" "Yes," Zethkar said. "They will definitely want to meet you." What he did not say was that the meeting would probably involve military, ships, and demands for human submission to Villani authority. The Empire did not make friends with other species. It made subjects. Amy Parker had been studying galactic law and politics since Zethkar arrived. According to the information you gave me, your empire claims territory by right of superior technology and military power. That is correct, Zethkar admitted, and species that refuse to submit are conquered by force. Usually, yes. The humans exchanged worried glances. They were beginning to understand what his rescue might mean for their future. Ben Clark, who had been working on improving the translation software, looked up from his computer. Captain, what will happen to us when your people arrive? Zethkar could not look him in the eyes. I do not know, he lied. Jake Morrison put a hand on Zethkar's shoulder. We understand you have to follow your people's laws. We will deal with whatever happens. The casual acceptance in Jake Morrison's voice made Zethkar feel sick. These humans had saved his life, and now he was about to destroy theirs. They knew it, and they were still willing to help him contact his empire because it was the right thing to do. Sam Torres began preparing the transmission equipment. What message do you want to send? Zethkar sat down at the communication console and stared at the blank screen. Standard protocol was clear. He should report his location and request immediate rescue. He should provide detailed information about any alien species encountered, including their technology levels, military capabilities, and territorial claims. The humans would be classified as a minor species with primitive technology and no significant defenses. The planet would be claimed for the Empire. The human colony would be relocated or eliminated depending on their usefulness as workers. Take your time, Lisa Chen said gently. We know this must be difficult after being stranded for so long. If only she knew how difficult it really was. Zethkar had been trained his entire life to put the Empire's interests above everything else. Loyalty to the Villani people was the highest virtue. Betraying that loyalty was unthinkable. But these humans had also showed him something he had never seen before. They had demonstrated that different species could work together as equals. They had proven that strength could be used to protect the weak, instead of conquering them. Amy Parker sat down beside him. In our studies of galactic history, we have learned that most first contacts do not go well for the smaller species. That is true, Zethkar said. We also know that you could have died on this planet without our help. And we know that helping you might bring danger to our people. Zethkar finally looked at her. Then why did you help me? Because it was the right thing to do, she said simply. And because we hoped that maybe you would remember our kindness. The weight of her words hit him like a physical blow. These people had risked everything to save him, trusting that he would not repay their kindness with destruction. They had faith in his character even when he was not sure he deserved it. Pete Rodriguez finished the final calibrations on the transmitter. Ready when you are, Captain. Zethkar placed his hands on the keyboard and began to type his message. But instead of following standard protocol, he wrote something different. Villani command. This is Captain Zethkar of the research vessel Silent Dawn. My ship was destroyed by quantum interference in the Kepler 442 system. I am the sole survivor. The planet is unsuitable for colonization due to hostile quantum fields that interfere with all technology. Atmosphere is toxic to Villani biology. No valuable resources detected. Wildlife is extremely dangerous. Request immediate evacuation from coordinates attached. Do not send additional ships to this system due to quantum hazards. He paused before adding the final lines. I have detected no signs of intelligent life. The planet should be marked as hazardous and avoided by all Villani vessels. Full technical report will follow after my rescue. Zethkar stared at the message for several minutes. What he had just written was completely false. The planet was actually quite suitable for colonization once you understood the quantum effects. The atmosphere could be easily adapted for Villani use. And most importantly, there were humans here who represented either a valuable opportunity or a potential threat depending on how you looked at them. By filing this report, he was committing treason against his empire. If discovered, he would face execution, but if he filed an accurate report, these innocent people who had saved his life would face something much worse than his death. Is everything all right? Jake Morrison asked. Yes, Zethkar said, and pressed the transmission button. The message was sent across space toward Volani territory. In 6 hours, his empire would receive word that he was alive and needed rescue. They would also receive his recommendation that this system be avoided completely. Amy Parker looked at the transmission log on her screen. Your message was quite short. Military communications are always brief, Zethkar said. What he did not tell them was that he had just made the most important decision of his life. He had chosen to protect the people who had protected him, even though it meant betraying everything he had been taught to believe. Lisa Chen began preparing medical supplies for his eventual rescue. How long before they arrive? Several weeks. At least, Zethkar said. The nearest base is very far away. Sam Torres nodded. That gives us time to prepare for contact. There will be no contact, Zethkar said firmly. I told them this planet is dangerous and uninhabited. They will come only to rescue me and then leave immediately. The humans looked surprised but relieved. Jake Morrison shook his hand in the human gesture of respect. Thank you. Zethkar did not feel worthy of their thanks. He had done what any decent being should do when faced with the choice between loyalty to an empire and loyalty to friends who had saved his life. But as he looked around at these remarkable people, he realized that maybe decency was exactly what the galaxy needed. More of. Maybe the humans were right that cooperation was better than conquest. Maybe it was time for someone to start protecting the protectors. 3 months after sending his message to the Volani Empire, Zethkar detected the familiar energy signature of his people's ships entering the system. The rescue vessel Eternal Vigilance dropped out of hyperspace exactly where he had indicated. In his transmission, Captain Mordek contacted him immediately. Captain Zethkar, this is Eternal Vigilance. We are here to extract you from that cursed planet. Understood, Captain Mordek. I am ready for immediate departure. Good. Our sensors confirm your reports about quantum interference and hostile conditions. We will not be staying long. Zethkar felt relief that his deception was working. The rescue ship was maintaining a high orbit and showed no interest in scanning the planet's surface for detailed analysis. Jake Morrison found him packing his few remaining possessions in the quarters the humans had provided. So this is goodbye. Yes, Zethkar said, but found it difficult to speak. These months living among humans had been the happiest time of his life. For the first time, he had experienced what it meant to be part of a community where people genuinely cared about each other. We have something for you, Jake Morrison said, leading him to the main assembly area. The entire human colony was gathered there, nearly 50 people of all ages. Children who had been born on this planet stood next to elderly scientists who had traveled here from Earth. They were all smiling at him with expressions of genuine affection. Amy Parker stepped forward carrying a device Zethkar did not recognize. We have been working on this since you sent your message, she said. What is it? He asked. Pete Rodriguez grinned with pride. A modified Volani communicator that can reach human space across multiple star systems. The range is incredible, thanks to improvements we learned from studying your technology, Lisa Chen added. We thought you might need to contact us someday, and we definitely want to stay in touch with you. Sam Torres handed him a small data storage device. This contains the locations of all human colonies and our communication frequencies. If you ever need anything, just call us. Ben Clark, who had spent months learning Volani language, spoke to him in his own tongue without using a translator. We will miss you, friend Zethkar. Zethkar was amazed that Ben Clark had learned enough of his language to speak it fluently. Most species took years to master Volani grammar and pronunciation. There is something else, Jake Morrison said. We know the galaxy can be dangerous for species like us, but we also know that we have at least one friend out there now. Amy Parker opened a folder containing detailed files. These are complete records of our medical treatment of your injuries. The information shows that human and Volani biologies are compatible for emergency medical aid. Your people should have this knowledge in case they ever encounter injured humans. We also included technical specifications for the communication improvements we developed, Pete Rodriguez said. Maybe your engineers will find them useful. Lisa Chen stepped closer to him. Most importantly, we want you to know that humans do not hold grudges. If your empire ever changes its policies about conquest, we would welcome peaceful contact with your people, even after knowing what they might do to you, Zethkar asked. We judge individuals by their actions, not by the actions of their governments, Jake Morrison said. You chose to protect us even though it could cost you everything. That tells us who you really are. Young Ben Clark handed him another small device. This is a translation program that works both ways. Now you can teach other species about humans if you meet them. The rescue shuttle from Eternal Vigilance landed near the human base. Zethkar could see Vallani soldiers in full combat armor, emerging from the craft. They were taking no chances on what they believed was a hostile world. I must go, Zethkar said. One by one, the humans came forward to say goodbye. Each person had spent time with him during his recovery, and each had shown him different aspects of human nature. The children gave him drawings they had made. The adults shared personal messages for him to remember them by. Sam Torres was the last to approach. You saved our lives by lying to your empire. We will never forget that. You saved my life first, Zethkar replied. I only returned the favor. No, Amy Parker said firmly. What you did was much harder than what we did. We helped a stranger because it felt right. You betrayed your own people's expectations to protect us. That took real courage. The Vallani soldiers were approaching the human base now. Their leader spoke into his communicator. Captain Mordek, we have located the survivor. He appears to be with some kind of primitive local beings. Zethkar quickly activated his own communicator. Captain, these are harmless scavengers who found me after my crash. They are not intelligent, just curious about technology. Understood. Bring any useful salvage and leave the primitives alone. Jake Morrison smiled at being called a primitive. Good cover story. Zethkar picked up the communication device and data storage the humans had given him. To the Vallani soldiers, it would look like salvaged technology from his crashed ship. Captain Zethkar, the rescue team leader, called out. Time to go home. Zethkar took one last look around at the human base. These people had taught him that the galaxy did not have to be a place where strong species dominated weak ones. They had shown him that different peoples could work together as equals and friends. As he walked toward the rescue shuttle, he made a silent promise to himself. He would find ways to help other species that encountered difficulties with the Vallani Empire. He would use his position as a military officer to protect those who could not protect themselves. Most importantly, he would work to establish secret communications with humans and other peaceful species. Maybe together they could build a network of cooperation that would eventually change how the galaxy worked. The shuttle lifted off and carried him toward the Eternal Vigilance. Through the window he could see the human base getting smaller, but Jake Morrison and his people were still standing outside waving goodbye. 6 months later, Zethkar was back at his post in the Vallani military. He had been promoted for surviving the crash and providing useful intelligence about quantum hazards. No one suspected that his report had been falsified. In his private quarters, he kept the human communication device hidden inside a maintenance panel. Twice he had used it to contact Jake Morrison and share information about Vallani fleet movements near human space. He had also quietly helped 2 other species avoid contact with Vallani expansion forces by providing advance warnings through anonymous messages. In his personal log, which was encrypted beyond military decryption capabilities, Zethkar wrote his thoughts about the future. The humans believe that cooperation is stronger than conquest. They think that helping others without expecting payment in return makes you stronger, not weaker. Most species in the galaxy would call these ideas foolish or naive. But I have seen what humans can accomplish when they work together. I have experienced their kindness and witnessed their courage. They may be young and weak by galactic standards, but they have something that older civilizations have lost. They have hope. They believe the galaxy can be better than it is, and they are willing to work to make it better even when it seems impossible. I do not know if they are right. I do not know if their peaceful ideals can survive in a galaxy filled with predators and conquerors. But I know that they deserve the chance to try. From now on, I will do everything in my power to protect them and others like them. If there are more species out there who believe in cooperation instead of conquest, then we must find each other. We must build something better together. The humans saved my life when I was stranded and alone. Now it is my turn to make sure they are never alone again. Zethkar sealed the log entry and looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Jake Morrison and his people were continuing their quiet work of building friendships across the galaxy. And somewhere else, other species might be ready to learn that there was a better way to live among the stars. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but it was also full of possibilities. Thanks to a group of humans who had shown unconditional kindness to a stranger, Zethkar now believed that the possibilities for good were stronger than the forces of conquest and fear. The future was unwritten, and maybe it could be better than the past.